Today, we're unlocking the link between integrated movement, health, and mindfulness with coach and educator Tarek of the Functional Training Institute. If you have practical ways to move better, feel better, and think clearer, this is the one for you. Now, I want to give a quick thank you today to our sponsors, Volition and Dr. Bradley Nelson, a two times best-selling New York Times author, and they make our conversations possible. So I just like to throw out a thank you to them. Now, welcome to the advisor. I am so excited to have you here. I'm really, what you do is amazing. And I want you to tell everybody what you do so they get a really good understanding of some of the things that you help people accomplish. So give a quick hello to everybody and tell everybody about yourself.
Thanks, Stacey. Appreciate you and having me on, and hello to all your listeners. And it's a wonderful thing to be on your show.
I'm really excited to understand more about what problem you're trying to solve. When you started teaching integrated movement, was there a moment with a client or athlete that changed your approach?
No, Stacey, I think for me, like I've always loved coaching. So from my footballing days, I was quite a serious footballer and sports person growing up. And this football we're talking the round ball or soccer. Whilst I was playing competitively, I coached my brother's team when I was 16, and it was like I was immersed in the life of that. And I just fell in love with it. Like I enjoyed the tactical element, I enjoyed the communication element, and that's probably what really I took out from the coaching was really affecting these individuals, at a youth level, and being able to kind of be a role model for them at the same time as a mentor and as a coach. So it was kind of like infusing all these roles that I thought, well, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Even as a 16-year-old. So I kind of continued that for a number of years, doing it voluntary as well, kind of helping out with different sporting clubs and getting paid gigs. And so I did that for a number of years. And so for me, that kind of launched me into the world of coaching and communication, and sort of then knowing how the power of communication and the power of that what we say, that we need to back it up by our actions. And so that sort of had been the catalyst for me over the years, whether it be football and then into coaching personal trainers, health and wellness professionals, which is sort of how it evolved for me. And that sort of really has never changed. Of course, I've fine-tuned my craft, and
Mhm.
and I've went to many seminars and studied like many people, many role models, read books. So all of that, coupled with me taking action on all of these sort of mentors' wisdom and insights, has sort of enriched, my journey as a coach, and then learning the nuances of communication, and then eventually being kind of, confident enough, because confidence maps competence,
Yep.
that I like we had off air. The conversation was that, I was thinking, was I ever good? Am I ever good enough? Like I'm at this sort of level now, and and
Yeah.
and 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 people are kind of requesting to speak here and do that. I thought, well, so I overcame that mindset, and eventually, but what's never stopped, Stacey, is just the learning and the applying, learning and applying, and really finding those particular skills that are going to make me a better coach, a better communicator. And whether that be, for fitness professionals or in the sport field, or corporate, or athletes, for example, then that's never changed. So that sort of attitude of refinement, of test, refine, repeat, and that really has been the kind of recipe for my ongoing evolution and
Mhm.
growth as a coach, and perhaps even mentor in the eyes of others. Because for me, the mentoring is something that is you don't sort of trial for it. It just comes because of all of the effort you put over the years,
Yeah.
and it's reciprocated, because I still have many mentors to this day. And so then I find it's a badge of honor when someone says,
Yeah.
"Oh, you're a mentor to me, I kind of like, my God, my heart fluttered. So being a mentor means being responsible and means that you've proven your act by your actions, not simply by your words,
Yeah,
that you're it's not because we're all like in the eyes of God, like it's unconditional worth, unconditional love.
yeah.
And that's how I see sort of mentoring. It's that element where it's not really earned, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, it's kind of paradoxical. That's my thing.
I love that. Now, if you had to define integrative movement in one sentence, what is it and how is it different from the typical strength or cardio?
So integrative movement is what we call functional. So you might hear this in the world of medicine, functional medicine, integrative medicine. It's the same in the world of fitness or preventative health. So integrative is not just the physical. So there's one element, but it's actually eliciting this effect where someone becomes really present when they perform their task or activity, which you
Mm,
would sort of equate to whether they be in flow state or whether it becomes true mindfulness, where their attention is directed to the activity that they're doing or what they're attending to. And that allows for a more enriched kind of process, whether it's the individual, training on their own, or whether it's coach to client, coach to athlete or group. It doesn't change because there's this powerful element, that this force, this energy, that when you
mhm,
tap into it, you have the right ingredients from a coaching perspective, that you got the
right.
right ingredients for programming. You actually understand the client's preferences. You understand that the client's personality types as well. So we throw in personality typing, whichever
Mhm,
typing one uses, DISC, for example, Mixbrier, whatever it might be. But if you then use that as a coach trainer, um, and then you couple that with how you then convey that in your sessions. So you might have a dominant type, you might have a type that's informative, someone that's very quiet and sort of needs more instructions and guidance and assurance. That is also part of the integrative process, Stacey, coupled with then understanding that deliberate practice is crucial. And that's something that Anders Ericsson posited in his book, Peak Performance. So deliberate practice, or purposeful practice, as I like to call it, is finding an activity or a task that you can relate, that relates to that person. It's not that person goes, yeah, that's what I want, so give it to me. It's more than that. It's
yeah,
working with them to give them that little bit of autonomy as part of self-determination theory, but giving them just enough of that so that in the end you still become the authority in their eyes, because that's why they've perhaps hired you, for example. And then you just throw in that right dosage. You break down that movement, that task, and you give
mhm,
it to them in this engaging fashion, so that you
yeah,
bring it to life in the language of coaching. As my friend Nick Winkelman would say, language of coaching comes into it. So we throw in then how you communicate, not just through the body, which means an internal approach. So if I reference the body when I squat, make sure the knees bend, and make sure you have external rotation. There's a lot of language involved
yeah,
mechanistically, that is, when break. But if we look at external cueing, and we will say we'll use a combination of internal, external. External would be environment, would also be metaphor. So we want you to draw yourself into the ground, and then just hold that, and then we want you to tear the ground away. So then you're creating this torque effect, which is equivalent to saying, well, make sure that you push the knees out, and so you interweave the language of coaching in terms of metaphors, analogy. I can dive right into this, but this is sort of touching on how you communicate that through this integrative process. So
right.
one is language, one is profiling, understanding the client's preferences, and then prescription. So then you've got the technical elements of tempo, of sets, of reps, and you balance that in a way that you then get feedback. So,
Mhm,
so you embellish that process with feedback. You don't just sit back and then see it unfold, but you provide the feedback in a way that is more effortless concentration that you want to induce in your own practice or that of your clients, so that
Yeah.
it doesn't become forced, or that the dictum of too many words disrupts the flow of the movement, whether it be a
Right.
sport, playing tennis, or whether it be, doing a kettlebell swing or whatever it may be. So what we want to do is induce what's called effortless concentration. And so that part of that process then means that as we're doing this, we're saying less to that client eventually, and we're seeing them, improve, we're seeing them engage, we're seeing them return, week after week, and so this is a mode of retention, so if I was a trainer, I'd be thinking seriously about these things of like how do you engage your clients, and some of these things here that I'm mentioning are part of that integrative process. If we then take it another step, so I'm just sort of giving context there. Another way is if we look at traditional forms of training, so let's say machine-based and isolation, that would be what we call traditional on the left. And
Right.
then we have the functional on the right, so functional integrative. And so again, these two sort of forces, are often kind of at war when they shouldn't be, right? Like whether it
Yeah.
be from a medical perspective, or whether it be from a preventative perspective, and that would include fitness and wellness and health. So these are necessary, and so when someone tells me, oh, machines and all of this sort of, well, I say no, well, let's take a perspective. And so if someone needs to strengthen their VMO, the vastus medius obliquus, then, well, okay, maybe we need to isolate a little bit, then we integrate. So we go from ISO
Mhm.
to INTO, which is called ISO integration. And some of that would require traditional forms of training. So that's why, for me, I don't like throwing the baby out the bathwater, because they're complementary. And that's where the conversation needs to go, I think, Stacey. So that's sort of giving you some context around my integrative approach, which would
Yeah.
include language and other components of mental skills, preferencing, and then from there looking at, does the client require traditional modes, or do they
Hmm.
require fully integrative or functional, in other words, meaning whole body movements, and articulating that through how you program it.
Right. Right. I love that. I love that. Now, what's one belief about mobility, flexibility, or functional training that you retire today, if you could?
That I would retire today.
Yeah, a myth that a lot of people, when it comes to functional medicine and
Yeah.
integrated movement and and functional training, what are some of the things that you would say, you know what, people keep saying this or they keep doing this, but it's not working because of X, Y, and Z. Sometimes people they look at a lot of the stuff on Google, they look at a lot of the stuff on YouTube, and they get a misconception of what functional training is and what the purpose is, and how integrative is really a way that we
Yeah.
should
Yeah.
focus on.
It's a good question. So it kind of extends from what I was mentioning previously, but you have like either function versus functional. So like in order to kind of function like well, to perform a squat, for example,
Yeah.
you need good biomechanics in your ankle, and then up the chain from there to be able to perform a full, body weight, and let alone having load on your body, right? So sometimes that needs to be perhaps isolated for some individuals, and
Hmm.
so that's where some of the machines may come into it. So I think for some perspectives out there, that there are some sort of myth busters. And I'll give you an example. Like if we look at the kettlebell swing,
Hmm.
and you take that movement itself, I think a common myth buster there is that, you need to be more working from the knees and not from the hips, right? But
Right.
and so the kettlebell swing is a hip hinge movement, for example. So if I was really pedantic about that, I'd say, well, stop bending from those knees, right? So that would be sort of one zoomed in example. But again, the other one from like machines, like we ought not to use machines anymore. Well, well, why is that? So I always go back and ask that the question, like, why? What meaning does that bring to you?
Yeah.
And so if people can't answer that in a meaningful way, then they've been either hypnotized or that they've just been blindly following, a path because someone else said it.
Yeah.
So, to be able to challenge those notions, that would be a classic one in the gym environment. And I think again, like we understand that women, for example, okay, let stay away from the weights room, right? That's an old kind of
Yeah.
um, myth, right? That hopefully mostly isn't the case these days, but that we know
Right.
that strength training is for everyone. Strength training
Yeah.
is for women, for kids, even properly prescribed, and for elderly and anyone in between. So, I think that's trending as well. Strength training as being part of the longevity of the human body for sure. Right doses again. So again,
Yeah.
like that, if we just focus maybe just on strength training, then you know why would someone then also need to take steroids? Well, I'm not here to say, well, someone should or someone shouldn't, because there are different
Yeah.
contexts where sculpting's, part of it, right? So we have
Yeah.
different competitions for aesthetics. Well, why should someone do aesthetics? Because that's what someone may want to pursue. So,
Mm-hmm.
it takes us in all these directions, Stacey, so that we actually look at these perspectives that why does someone choose to do an aesthetics-based competition, bodybuilding or whatever it could be? Well, over the years I've wrestled with that, but I've come to appreciate that is a component, and people chase that for a time, and then maybe for another period later on, they then become more functional in the sense that they've done it, they've enjoyed it, they've had success with it, but they
Mm-hmm.
want to go another route.
Yeah.
So, I think there are different paths, perhaps, Stacey, that we may take from maybe when we're really sporty and we could go and tackle if we're playing rugby or,
Yeah.
we for example. So, but then priorities may change. But one thing that I think is trending and true is that doing the right technique and getting a good coach that coaches right technique, communication, the language is
Mm-hmm.
longevity, because what we want to do is be able to perform the movements as best we can for as long as we can, and then evolve and then understand that maybe we're not going to lift as heavy as we go through our decades if
Yeah.
we're blessed enough to do so. So, we need to relinquish a few things, but then guess
Mm-hmm.
what? There are other components of fitness that come into it. What about cognitive fitness training, dual tasking? All of a sudden, it's not just about physiology that we're affecting, but it's things like when we say dual tasking, I'll get you, let's say, Stacey, look, I'll call out different colors that correspond to movements, and then you perform
Right.
that movement because all of a sudden, like I've given you that instruction, and so you're dual tasking, you're using both sides of your brain, you're embodying what I'm actually telling you to do through, that's one example, processing time, reactive time, reaction time. So cognitive fitness training, again, like I think will be trending massively and will be part of all. I hope and I think it will occur at some point in the next 5, 10 years, Stacey, that we'll see cognitive-based fitness training classes and
Mm-hmm.
methods in main gyms, call it, not just what we call performance boutique gyms. So, and then we might embrace that necessarily, because there's a lot of research around, mitigating risk of Alzheimer's and all neurodegenerative diseases.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that there's a fascinating world of movement and fitness, and sometimes it's extreme, but for
Yeah.
others it may not be extreme.
Right. Exactly. Now, for non-injury aches like neck, lower back, how do you distinguish needs like needs strength versus needs mobility versus needs recovery?
So you got to look at kind of the whole kinetic chain. So in terms of like go through a joint by joint approach, which
Hmm.
you look at people like Mike Boyle who have professed that over the years. So if we look at a joint by joint, you need to see like what needs stability, what needs mobility. So we need to kind of do like a overall scan and an assessment. So both static and dynamic. And then from there, we will do perhaps some muscle testing if need be. But there are just some certain tests that you would do more generally to sort of ascertain any asymmetries, for example, any discrepancies in left and right locomotion, or particular strength-based movements. So, once that's done, it doesn't stop, because you need to kind of have the coach's eye to
Yeah.
then zoom in where need be and go, well, what the heck's happened there with your ankle? And then ask those questions. Like I said earlier on, that feedback
Yeah.
will reveal stuff maybe your client just doesn't want to tell you, or that they've just gone and injured themselves and they haven't even known about it. So,
Yeah.
just being able to really harness that coach's eye and be in tune with your client, kind of not switched off, will just allow you to kind of get clues into how you then program. So obviously you do an initial assessment, but I'd say just do an ongoing one. Provide movements, dynamic movements, where they're warm-ups, but you're able to assess what's going on.
Right.
And so be able to pick up some deviations or discrepancies in their movement before then loading them, or getting them into some more dynamic based movements that could then injure them and then harm them, right? So we want to kind of obviously avoid that, and get them away from pain as much as we can when we're exercising our clients, as it were. And that's the same for in the athletic space too, because sometimes there's no limits, and people want to push themselves, especially at a level of competition where they
Right.
know they have to get into the team, or otherwise they won't last at all. So it's about then tempering those things. But assessment is crucial, ongoing assessment, and then throw in coaching, like I said, because that coaching with feedback, a feedback loop, getting feedback from them, getting them to giving you feed forward what they're
Mm-hmm.
feeling, changing perspectives, is crucial. So then what we do is we might add some foam rolling if necessary. We might add some of those little tools in our kit. One protocol that I like using, Stacey, is called the ramp protocol. So when I create warm-up routines, I use what's called a ramp.
Mm-hmm.
R is to raise the physiological state, but also the psychological state, to get someone
Yeah.
into flow or mindfulness. So they're all strategies that I'll go through there. And then
Right.
A is to activate. So we'll activate those key muscles required, particularly for that session. And if it's more upper body or lower body or integrative, is it pull? Is it push? Is it a combination of those things? Um, uh, and then M is to mobilize. So mobilize the key joints. So, just some different strategies. It could just be some joint rolling, some gentle movements that kind of, get some joint viscosity going. And then P is to potentiate. So potentiate is firing up the neuromuscular system, really getting it charged and ready if that's required. So if I'm doing more
Right.
power-based movements, then I'll do these explosive kind of elements within the ramp protocol. But then on the other hand, recovery is really important, of course. So
Yeah.
recovery, I mean, I perform at least 20, 30 minutes in the morning to get up and do my breath work, stretching routine, after taking the dogs out. I won't touch the phone for the first hour unless it's an emergency hour of the day
Yeah.
in my morning. And that really enables me to get into my state, and I can have my prayer, connect with God, and also just with myself, and be
Yeah.
able to set the day up intentionally. And then I do my movement practices, and I practice a little bit of martial arts too. So I'll do a little bit of my skill work. So people can find the time, I think, Stacey. That's my point. And
Yeah.
following a few protocols, and there are so many people out there that are saying a lot of good things, but you've got to also be careful of those saying follow my diet or follow my program, or it's just being careful of the gurus out there, and really just doing your research, do due
Yeah.
diligence. Access to knowledge and being able to get that from AI now is incredible on one hand, but you've got
Yeah.
to be able to use that tool right. But I think it also offers an opportunity, Stacey, for people not to be hoodwinked, and just be discerning as to who they choose, where they go, But ultimately, one needs to find their own practice and rhythm. So going back to recovery, so recovery, is something that in a session. So a session is the total thing that we do in over 45 minutes to an hour. People think a
Yeah.
session's a workout. You got your warm up or your movement prep, and I mentioned ramp. Then you got your workout, and your workout, let's call it, if it's a 45-minute session, you've got about 25 minutes of a program that either is high intensity in
Hmm.
gears, gear one is low intensity, gear five is high intensity, whichever gear you're working in, whichever methods of training, whether it's traditional, whether it's functional, which tools you're going to use, suspension
Yeah.
trainer, kettlebells, sandbags, body weight only, so the trainer does have this degree of creativity, but they're using the principles, the progressive overload and variables of training. Rest, rest is important. When we talk about
Yeah.
recovery, people are just bashing their bodies, they're creating more stress in their body,
Yeah.
and so more inflammation as a therefore. And so is
Hmm.
that a good thing? Not at all. So we need to change up and create almost like a what's the word for it? Uh, Basically an undulating kind of
Hmm.
effect on programming, right? So
Right.
just undulate it. But sometimes just get a sense of your body. If you're more in tune to your body, just and your body and your body tells you no today, no, that's okay, that's
Hmm.
okay. Listen to the body, but then your body might go tells you, yeah, okay, well we can go a little bit hard today. Let's do it.
Hmm.
That's fine. I think just being in tune to that is so important, Stacey. So
I think so.
and then listening to instructions and then going, well, yes. And so you can make your own decisions about how you then program movement or recreation or
Right.
sport, all of those things together. And so, like, at least give yourself 5 minutes at the end of a session, slow the breath down, get into your parasympathetic system and calm your nervous system. 5 minutes, all you need. Bit of breath work, there are different techniques. You can also just do some progressive relaxation I mean, some of this can be guided if
Yeah.
someone needs it. There are some good coaches out there who not just yoga focused, they may have that, but they've got other
Hmm.
techniques like progressive relaxation technique, like breath work, and just slowing down and being centered again,
Yeah.
and also just falling into this gratitude and appreciation, and then it's like you're in bliss. Great session. And then guess what? You want more of it. So you
Yeah.
want to, body tells you, yes, I want to do this again and again. Yeah, so just undulating and finding ways to know when to have a session that is less intense. It could just be more
Yeah.
stretching, more yoga based, more, if you do
Right.
yoga, or if not, then just go out for a little walk in nature or find a space. Yeah, find a green space. Really
Yeah.
connect with nature again and do some of your movements out in nature, I'd say as well. Stacey is very, I wouldn't say lost on us, but in the world of being really disconnected to nature,
Yeah.
I think it can call us back, and some
Oh,
wonderful
yeah.
well-being benefits and many studies and research on nature-based physical activity as well.
That's so true. What could you share about a client transformation where integrated breath and movement and mindfulness made the breakthrough for that individual?
Yeah, so back when I had Primal Energy Fitness, it was a functional group class kind of concept back in 2000 and did we open it? 11, 12. So it was fairly progressive in Sydney at the time. It was still is. And my former business partner is still doing a great job, Ray Lowe in St. Peter's there. Shout out to him. So we had this client who came in totally, shy, a little bit broken as well. I think Stacey as well. So you could see the confidence was low and
Yeah.
wasn't able to give eye contact, but she had the courage to step in. With lots of no
Right.
doubt contemplation phase, and she had the courage to come in, and so myself in combination, me and Ray did some questionnaires, some more talk. We basically just focused on the talk, just to kind of really understand where this client was at. And so Christine, I won't say her surname, but Christine, that's her real name. train with us consistently. So we got her engaged enough, Stacey, to train with us consistently for about 6 months. And when we say consistent, at least 3 sessions. So
Yeah.
Stacey, at least three one-on-ones and one group class eventually. So again, we progressively overloaded and actually got her confident enough to train with others because we knew that that social dimension of fitness is so important. And I had direct experience, firsthand experiencing it at Primal Energy Fitness, where we had equal 50-50 male and females, wonderful. And then all of a sudden it was just organic. The members
Yeah.
would, I'm just going a little bit off topic, would get together and create social events. And I'll tell you what, that again, that social element of fitness, I think is so underrated and important for
Yeah, I
communities.
agree.
So back to Christine. And so we did our test our retest to test her physiological markers primarily. And she went from being able to only row, let's say, a rowing machine, 100 meters, like puffing, to then doing a kilometer, no problem. So we saw that her cardio was improving, her strength,
Yeah.
and mobility. And so, lo and behold, to us, like we knew that she was engaged. She said, "Oh, Ray and Tarek, I'm finishing up because I'm going on a trip." And we go, "Great, how you feeling, etc." Great. And so it was like a month later, we got a postcard from Christine, and it had her triumphant on Machu Picchu, and she says, "You've helped me fulfill my dream." And I was like, "My God!" Like, I still get like, it still electrifies me.
Yeah.
And I thought,
Yeah.
what meaning for her and what meaning for us? I'm like, geez, So, and we've had other great stories as well, more, but that's one that I constantly tell and retell. Yeah,
I love that. I love
very
that.
powerful.
It is very powerful. It's such a great feeling when you can help another individual, especially come out of their shell like she did, and then change her whole life around. That's pretty
Change it
amazing.
completely. Yeah, and it affected us, and that's the bi-directional now. Well, it just gives you that satisfaction and that's why I think for me it's like a calling, what I was called to do, And
Yeah.
so, whether it be one person or many, it's irrespective. If you can impact like those people out there with facilities, or you're training in parks, wherever, just keep doing a great job and building community, because you don't realize sometimes we don't stop, I think, enough and reflect and go, wow, the impact that we have, not in a
Yeah.
egotistical way, but in a way that kind of allows you to have that bit of space to acknowledge that the work that you're doing is making a difference.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Now you've written a book. Can you tell me a little about the book?
Yeah, purpose-driven movement. So I'll just most people are probably listening here, but those who are watching, my cheesy little grin. So yeah, so this one, purpose-driven movement, was a labor of love. I first embarked on it in 2014 with my business partner at the time. Um, we got to the introduction, it hibernated, and I said to the business partner at the time, "Look, I feel like an urge to finish it off. There's something that's just bothering me in a good way." So yeah,
Yeah.
I went and I finished it off. Spent another year. We had it self-published, and it was ready, self-published in 2019 of March. Um, and then, yeah, it went into many people's hands. So whenever someone did a course, we sold a fair few. Wasn't, a New York Times bestseller, but for us it was great, and it still is great. And I shared with you earlier, Stacey, that we got it published with Morgan James Publishers in New York, and they've been great. And yeah, we're selling a little here and there, but to be honest, for me, it's like a way for people to connect with the
Yes.
philosophies of Functional Training Institute. Of course, there's four pillars. So there's how to assess, a whole assessment system, talk, see, do approach that we talk about.
Right.
I had my good friend Ulrich Larson, a sports physio, or a physical therapist, as they call them in the States, help put that chapter together. And then we've got how move with purpose, so our whole movement system, our adaptive functional training system model, and then how to coach with purpose, how to frame conversations, communication, and all of those methods, cueing, and then how to program with purpose. So there are these four distinct pillars. There's lots of resources there, templates, and to be honest, anyone who wants to know more about me and Functional Training Institute, I say, look, I can offer that for free as a not as a physical copy, but as a as a
Yeah, yeah.
PDF the next thing. And it's a few hundred pages, and as I said, it's very interactive. There's models, there's pictures, there's videos. So yeah, it was, a labor of love, Stacey. And I love the whole process of writing. Sometimes I thought, geez, will I finish? But yeah, it's one of the best things that I've done. Yeah.
Uh, where can people find this book?
Yeah, so I'll leave a link with you. It's on the website, the functionaltraininginstitute.com. So we have that as a free resource. But I can also give you the link where people can not have to look through the website to get it. We're in the process of getting a new website. So I can give you and the listeners the link to get the free book, and I'd love for people to have access to it. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Now, if you had to take today's conversation, you wanted to emphasize on some important factors, what are some of the things that you really would love the listeners to remember from this conversation?
Yeah, look, I think again, like fitness isn't just a physical phenomena. That's one thing. Like looking at the biopsychosocial. So the social element is equally important, but also the mental side. Like fitness, movement is community, but there's also the mental benefits. There's so much research, whether it be strength training, cardio, belonging, and being connected with groups of people as a tribe who do a common thing has very much great social well-being benefits. Sorry, and then just the psychological or the mental benefits. So look at all the different well-being benefits: vitality, mood, mindfulness, um, you know, uh, awareness, focus, attention, all those things that exercise, and just know that there are many different options, for people out
Yeah.
there to really choose wisely, the coach, the trainer, or the group,
Mhm.
and just feel like there's a vibe there for you, and stick with it a little bit, because sometimes it's a bit, inconvenient at first because it may not be routine yet.
Mhm.
But if you treat it as that and it's a routine, then just make sure it changes up, that routine's changed up, so it doesn't become, just boring anymore. We want to be engaged for as
Yeah.
long as we can. And variety for some people is great. Otherwise, for other people, strict routine works for them. So again,
Right.
I'm speaking with different personalities, that some people prefer training alone, but just find what vibes with you. Find your tribe. Find, if you don't have a tribe, don't worry. Just find your place, whether it
Yeah.
be a park. For some people, it's a setup they need, Stacey. So I've set up my home here that it's conducive for me to be able to work out. So, and for some people, they stagnate. They're afraid for whatever reason it may be. So just find whatever that barrier is, and enjoy it. Have a bit of fun with it,
Yeah.
and it's long lasting. There's that don't think of it like a career, or that you need to do it to get into a dress or this. Just treat it beyond, transcend that, and play with it in a way that, whether you're competitive or not, that you explore. Keep it exploratory. I think keep moving exploratory. It might be interactive. It might be beneficial for you as community. There's many reasons that someone should pursue fitness and movement for all their life, that they're able to do so. Some people are
Yeah.
limited, but they still do it. They're limited. They have
Right.
limited capacity, and they're still doing exercise in whatever capacity they have. So yeah, that would be it. A few things there.
I love it. I love it. Well, this has been amazing, Tarek. I appreciate you so much for coming on the show. I hope you'll be back because there's so many different things that we can touch base on today that we've only
Yeah.
really touched a few things today, but I'd love to have you back and we could talk a little bit more about other things like mindset and, other topics that we talked briefly on. But this has been amazing and I thank you so much for coming on the show. I love that you're helping people change lives and, you're using fitness, health, mindset, and combining everything together to show people a different way of taking care of themselves and how important it is to combine and blend all these different areas of our lives and that we don't have to be in a gym for like, 7 hours a day or 6 hours a day, that you could be doing the things you love and you can be doing a little bit of the things that are meaningful to you that could really help you in your health and your overall, wellness, mind, body, and soul. And you really, have done a wonderful job at exemplifying that. And I thank you so much for what you do and the work that you put into it. And before we go, I want you just to mention about your course because you came out with a beautiful course. And, if you could briefly tell everybody a little about the course before we go, that would be great.
Yeah, there's several, Stacey. So there's if someone wants to become a functional trainer, we've got the master functional trainer, and there's the movement restoration coach as well. So that's got movement preparation, recovery, assessment, correctives. So all of these are a great immersion for those who are, professional, those who are just like enthusiasts. Whether
Hmm.
you're in health, wellness, fitness, you're one of those professionals, you'll benefit immensely. We have accreditation points for those with ACE, NASM, and many other organizations. So we've been around since 2009, and our online courses are excellent. So yeah, just pop in a message if you go to functionaltraininginstitute.com. You can find me on LinkedIn as well, Tarek Michael Chouja as well. You can message me direct on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to chat, with anyone who reaches out from this podcast and give you a free book, give you resources, and just help you get underway. If you're someone who's been listening and you're wanting to be a trainer or get into the wellness fitness space, then just chat with me because I might not be the right person to coach you, but I can hopefully point you in the right direction. I've got many good connections throughout the world, and I've been blessed to know a lot of great mentors and people who have definitely helped me on my journey. And I'd love to do the same. Like I said to you earlier, offline, Stacey, was that mentoring is really something special to me. It's a
Yeah.
gift. So I'm happy to help those who want to get transition from a career to a calling, because you shared that this podcast that you're doing a marvelous job, by the way, advocating what you're doing and really reaching out to guests with different perspectives such as mine, and you've had many special guests on. So we couldn't do this without you, Stacey. So we thank you too and applaud you for what you're doing. But I think that's the key is if anyone wants help, just reach out, and you can switch from your career to a calling, because some people they do that. They go, well, this job I'm doing for whatever reason, it's just not vibing with them, and it's just they don't want to do it anymore. Well, if that's the
Yeah.
case, reflect a bit and maybe getting into the preventative health fitness space. You can make tremendous impact really
Oh, yeah.
in this space, and it can morph into different things. I've got my own podcast too, Purpose Driven Movement, and like you're very entrepreneurial, but you do it with such an intention that has proper meaning.
Hmm.
It's true. There's that commitment to truth. So, it can be interesting, is my point. It
Yeah.
can take you to interesting places. I mean, when I first started, just to wrap up here, that I didn't know what I was going to do. I was floating around, but I kind of had the intention. And
Hmm.
what's now Functional Training Institute was a hobby. I started this as a hobby.
Right.
So hobbies can be translated into something
Oh, yeah.
sustained. Yeah, I truly believe that.
100%, 100%. Well, this has been amazing, Tarek. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
I think you're wonderful, and I can't wait to have you back on this show. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your knowledge today, and just your motivational enthusiasm to help others and to really show others how to they could help themselves. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Stacey. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. You have a great day.